Hello everyone, I'm back again. And this video was inspired because I was on Stop the FOMO's channel, and a lot of us on there who own the Q9fn Samsung 2018 model were saying the same thing, that none of us were really enticed to upgrade. And, someone actually said during that conversation, man, we should investigate this more. So, I did a little bit of homework. And now I'm going to tell you why I think that any QLED after 2018 is a waste of your extra hard-earned dollar. And why? Because you should get the Q9fn or the Q8fn because they are still available, and why it would benefit you, what the downsides might be, and also, just in general, the longevity of this TV and everything else. So let's begin. Bought back in 2018, this 75-inch sucker. The first thing I will say is sometimes with panel lottery, these things can have a little bit of a dirty screen effect, but it varies from LCD panel to LCD panel. Yes, even the Qleds are LCD panels. No getting around that. So as you can see, it's not perfectly black, but it is really, really black for an LED TV. Now, since 2018, the Samsung's black levels have gotten progressively worse. I don't know why. I can fathom a couple of guesses, but just so you know, that is a thing. Now, one drawback to that is with this TV, the local dimming algorithm is very aggressive. So sometimes during dark scenes, it will completely crush some of the details. This is noted in a lot of other reviewers' channels. But that being said, this TV has 4 HDMI ports on a One Connect box, which is, I'm not going to show it to you because it's just a cabley mess down there right now, but in a One Connect box, and each are rated for HDMI 2.0. This TV also has VRR, variable refresh rate, and it has an input lag of about 21 something milliseconds. Maybe a little bit less if you're playing on, say, 1080p. Don't quote me on that, check our tings. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, the newer Q90R does have better input lag, but at a cost. So with LED TVs, unfortunately, when you go into game mode, often it turns off a lot of the processing in the TV. So what does that mean for you? Well, it means that your image will not look nearly as sharp as it did when you were watching a movie or TV or what have you. It's kind of disappointing, but it is very much a thing, and there's just nothing we can really do about that. Now, that being said, where was I? Let's see. So, yeah, the processing of game mode is significantly toned down in order to give you better input lag, in order to really get that input lag that Samsung brags about, the 13.1 milliseconds. Now, that in itself wouldn't be a problem, but remember what I said about the local dimming? So I'm not sure what happened over the years, but Samsung's local dimming algorithm and their blacks just are crap. So if we go forward into the Q90R, and, I don't have the Q90R here, so you're probably thinking I'm just shooting my mouth off. But trust me, I'm not. I've seen it myself. The black looks gray, okay? It looks like a washed out gray. And in game mode, there is bloom like you wouldn't believe. There's so much bloom that people actually started a forum complaining about it. I was shocked, to say the least. Also, the Q90R has the exact same HDMI 2.0 ports except for One port. That's right. One port, which technically is HDMI 2.0, but has a little bit of a higher bandwidth to be able to do 4K at 120 hertz. But that's only one port. One. The rest is exactly the same as this TV. For that matter, the One Connect box is exactly the same for this TV. And for that matter, the resolution is almost exactly the same for this TV. Settings are almost exactly the same. Menus are almost exactly the same. Maybe a little bit less smooth on the older TVs, but not by much. So let's just open up our menu here so you can kind of see for yourselves. But yeah, it Tizen is almost identical in every single way. Now, full disclosure, my TV was calibrated. So any images that I'm showing you are due to calibration. Now, mind you, they do not calibrate game mode at Best Buy, so that wasn't calibrated. I calibrated that myself. So, you can obviously take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. So there's one thing I want to show to kind of, bring into the light why I don't like the newer Samsungs at all, and why I think that their marketing is just a bunch of nonsense. So I'm going to start up my Nintendo Switch. I'm going to fire up Xenoblade Chronicles. Okay, now let's see if I can get it. I have to get in nice and close. I'm not sure if you can see it or not. There it is. Do you see that kind of blur trail there? Weird, isn't it? Yeah. That's caused by Game Motion Plus. It's also seeable in the bottom kind of story corner there. Now, you might be thinking, well, yeah, that's motion interpolation, right? But here's the funny part. The motion interpolation on the Q90R is identical. It's the same darn thing, but they call it game enhancement. That's right, but it's still Game Motion Plus. It's the exact same software. It runs the same, it has the same response time, and it has the same, everything is the same. You're gonna hear that a lot in this video, so I apologize. Everything is the same. And, if you want proof, watch another YouTuber, his name is The Villaman, and when he's moving around in God of War, circling the camera around, you'll see that same artifacting, that same kind of weird blur on Kratos' face. So it literally, it's much more noticeable on the Q90R, but that doesn't mean that the Q9fn didn't have it. But here's the funny part. Then what did they really change? They changed the name. Oh, okay. So they didn't actually change the software at all. It's literally the same software. What about VRR? Well, that's the same too. Still VRR 60 Hz at a maximum, unless of course you're using port 4 on the Q90R. What about dimming zones? Well, thankfully they kept the dimming zones the same on the Q90R and the Q9fn. However, the dimming zones on the Q90T, the latest Samsung 4K model, are less. Yes, you heard that right. They're only maybe 100 dimmable zones as opposed to almost 500 on this model and the Q90R. Now, isn't that just disgusting? So basically, they're pretending that it's, an upgrade for you, the latest and greatest 4K, but they're actually giving you a downgrade. And this is actually kind of more the same with the Q90R. Yeah, there's a couple of features added here and there, but what are the costs of that? So for example, look how nice this TV looks right now, color-wise. It's got some nice contrast. It's not inky blacks like an OLED, but it's got some nice black range to it. This is 2018, not 2020. But if you go forward, you get this kind of washed out sort of blacky gray color on the newer Qleds. Because in order to get that input lag that they so earnestly brag about, they need to turn off even more processing. And even worse, the only real change between the TVs that I can see, at least in picture-wise, is HDR. HDR is a little bit higher than the Q9fn, but not by much. And the Q90T is pretty much identical to the Q90R in HDR mode. Even, even more weird is the fact that, the local dimming algorithm, I would say, I don't know if it's worse or what. Like, okay, it doesn't crush as much detail in blacks, but at the same time, it still doesn't look as good. You get this kind of washed out looking image, and you would never see it if you hadn't actually seen these TVs yourself. When I went and looked at the Q90R in the demo booth about a few months ago, mind you, Samsung's discontinued it now, so I probably can't see it anymore, and they wouldn't want you to see it anyway, because the 90T is definitely a downgrade from that. I just thought to myself, those colors, what is it about? And you know what it is? It's the contrast. The contrast in this TV is fantastic. Again, 2018. So what happened? Well, if you've watched other reviews, then you already know what happened. They put some kind of special film or layer so that no matter what, angle you're looking at the TV, picture is improved.
Hang-Ups is a British sitcom that first aired in 2018 and stars Stephen Mangan, Catherine Parkinson.
Okay. Google, stop. I don't know what set off that, but whatever. Okay. So, basically, in a nutshell, I really don't think that the newer TVs are actually worth your hard-earned money, because they're not doing anything differently than the 2018 TVs. Literally, they're almost exactly the same. There are minor differences here and there, but mostly Samsung is kind of stuck to the same formula. Take away things in order to give you other things. Like, do you want more contrast? Okay, you can have it, but, at the cost of input lag. Okay, what? You want more, detail from the left side of your TV instead of, losing detail. Okay, we'll give that to you, but at a cost of contrast. Okay, you want, the best input lag? No problem, we can give you that, but we're going to turn off all processing, and on top of that, our algorithm is going to cause major blooming. And the worst part is, and they have a reputation for doing this, they may eventually nerf this TV. Samsung has a reputation for nerfing their TVs in order to make their newer TVs look better. It's really quite disheartening. I used to really, really like Samsung TVs. I would sing their praises all day long, especially after getting this Q9fn, because I was just blown away by it originally. The Q8fn is just as good, and in some cases, better than the Q9fn. Ironically, even though it's a step down, well, okay, it's a step down on marketing paper purposes. But yeah, like, if you can even get a Q8fn, that even has, I think, better input lag than the Q9fn. And it's cheaper. And guess what? The real kicker about all of this, you can still get those TVs. But Samsung, because of course they have discontinued the Q90R, the Q80R, the Q60R. They've discontinued every single one of those TVs, and they're impossible to find. But yet, weirdly enough, 2018 TVs, you can still get them. Seriously, search one up on the internet right now. I bet you'll find one. And they are cheaper. And that's why I say, is it really worth your hard-earned dollar to get the latest and greatest upgrades? The only thing I'm upgrading to, and this is thanks to a very good bunch of guys over at a local shop called Visions in Burlington, Ontario. They set me up with a OLED panel. Now you're probably wondering, well, why would you jump to OLED if you're a gamer? Well, because of what I talked about. Although this TV does a better job at retaining details, and it does a better job at retaining contrast in blacks, and even HDR, it still loses its luster when put into game mode, because game mode turns off a bunch of the processing. Now, you could turn it back on, but then at a cost of input lag. OLEDs don't really have that. No, I am not Team OLED, and I'm not Team QLED either. They both have their advantages and disadvantages, as I'm learning quickly. Now, that being said, getting back to what I was saying, really, there are no differences between the TVs. Like, hold on, let's just go over to my computer for a minute. 1 second. All right, now check this out. On our things, Q90R and Q90T, sorry about the zoom, guys, they're literally, look, identical, 8.5 and 8.5, identical rating. What? But how can that be? Well, because they haven't really changed. There's no real differences. The differences are so subtle, Artings can't even give it a higher rating. Now, one thing I am kind of mad at Artings, though, is they did not bring up the fact that the Q90T has less dimmable zones, and that is a big factor for someone who wants to pay money for a really good TV. So you're saying, okay, but what about the Q9fn? Well, let's take a look. There's the Q9fn, there's the Q90R, and look at that. Literally by 2 points. 2 points. The differences are so negligible, it's honestly a wonder if it's even worth it. I don't think it is, but hey, maybe you think it is. Everyone's going to have a different opinion on this. But yeah, so what are the drawbacks, if you will, of the Q9fn? Well, the Q9fn, because it's running HDMI 2.0, you will not get the benefits of HDMI 2.1, which just released this year. If you can stomach that, though, this TV still has VRR, and it still has FreeSync and FreeSync Ultimate at that. It has pretty much the same FreeSync technology that is in the Q90R. Another downside is that this TV does not support 1440p native. Well, all right. I guess we can kind of get over that, considering that the other TV that does literally washes out details. What's another downside? Well, input lag on this TV is slightly higher. But again, that's because you're getting more detail. Like, a lot more detail. What else? I don't know how much longer Samsung's going to update the firmware on these TVs. I'm hoping they stop soon because I really don't want them to nerf it. But it is a possibility that they could do that in the next little while, in which case it would behoove you, if you pick up one of these suckers, to maybe get it calibrated before they do their nonsense. Because if it's calibrated, then I think that there's not really much they can do. Who knows? I don't know. Don't quote me on that. Another downside is the stand on the Q9fn is very bulky, very wide. It's not easy to assemble either. It takes up a ton of space on the front of your cabinet, and the TV sits pretty darn low. About, I don't know, maybe an inch or so off the thing. If that's going to be a problem for you, maybe get the Q8fn. It sits a little bit higher. What are some other downsides? Some other downsides, in my opinion, of this TV are... I found sometimes, like when it comes to connecting to the internet, this TV can be a little wonky. Sometimes the interface can be a little bit slow. The way that this TV detects devices is probably improved. I mean, I'm hoping it is on the Q90R. I cannot verify that. Sometimes when this TV detects devices, it doesn't detect them properly. So it's supposed to detect like the Nintendo Switch automatically, or the PS4, or whatever you plug into it. Now, another downside, ironically though, it is not a downside to this TV, but just Qleds in general, is this TV does not support Dolby Atmos. And it doesn't support DTS or DTSXs either. That's just Samsung cheaping out. So, and I'm going to call them out on it because with their quantum dots, yes, they used to be called quantum dot TVs, not QLEDs, quantum dot TVs. In the KS8500, it had DTS support, and it had Dolby Digital. So there's no real reason for this other than, to save money. And I'm going to call them out on it. Another thing that this TV has is black frame insertion mode. It will only go up to 60 hertz. 4K HDR will only go up to 60 hertz because you're using outdated HDMI. But again, do you really need 4K at 120 hertz? That'll be up to you, depending on how serious a gamer you are or how serious you are about response time. And yeah, honestly speaking, this TV, still to this day, and the Q8fn, and probably even the Q6fn, can stand toe-to-toe with most of the flagship TVs of today in 2020. But ironically, they probably still demolish the flagship Samsung TVs of 2020 because they all have better features. They're all better made. Here's another little nitpick of mine too. Did you know that the original Q9fn shipped with this? A nice steel remote. Simple, but effective. Nice steel Bluetooth remote. It screams premium. The newer Qleds ship with that same plastic Samsung remote, that black one, that your soundbar frickin' uses. I'm not joking. The only difference is the buttons. It's the same one, and not only that, even worse, is that black remote that I just mentioned is literally the same remote from 2016. 2016! That's right. And as proof of that, one time I accidentally took my remote to my parents' house. They still have a KS8500. And I hit the home button, and guess what? It turned on the KS8500. That's right. Yeah, the soundbar remote, not the TV remote, my soundbar remote turned on the KS8500. You're going to love that one, eh? So, it's literally, it's so cheap. It's so cheaply made, and Samsung TVs are just getting cheaper and cheaper. But why are they getting cheaper, you might ask? Because they're trying to push all of you into buying into 8K. 8K this and 8K that. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. This TV's a freaking monster. But you know what the most ironic part is? If this TV was 8K, you would not be able to tell the darn difference. Because it's not big enough. If you want to actually take advantage of 8K, you need to have an 80 to 85 inch at minimum, and above that is preferred. So, why would you jump to 8K? There's no reason to jump to 8K. I don't care what Samsung says. There's no reason, in my mind, right now, to jump to 8K. There isn't even a reason to buy their 4K TVs. There isn't a reason to buy any kind of TV right now except for 4K. There's no reason to buy 8K. There's no reason to buy, 16K. No reason at all. Just stick to 4K, and honestly, if you want to get a TV that doesn't burn in, no offense to OLEDs, they are wonderful TVs, and I'm going to get one in my living room soon. But if you do not want to have that worry, and I know I had it at first, I had to kind of talk to myself and talk myself into it, then go with one of these, or better yet, a Q8fn. Like, you will save so much money. So much. But if you don't believe me, check this out. We're going to go back over to my computer here. 1 second. I'm sorry, you're going to be looking at my floor for a minute, and maybe my desk. Sorry guys, just give me a minute here. check this out. For a 65 Q9fn, you can spend that much. Are you looking at that? That price there for a 65-inch. Look how much it used to be. For that same TV I was showing you, except maybe a little bit smaller. Okay? You say? What about... Okay, so Amazon doesn't have it. But I mean, you can still get them. You can still get them. And they're cheap. They're so cheap. Let's try the Q8fn. Look at this. It's even cheaper for the Q8. For a 65-inch FALD full array backlit model, amazing contrast, 4K resolution, VRR, fantastic, okay, now maybe not fantastic, but half decent input lag, you know, all the latest features except for the one Connect box, and of course, I don't know, one port that has 120 hertz and 1440p resolution. But the rest is the same. You can save so much money by just buying a 2018 TV at this point in time. But, you know, don't take my word for it. Let's look up the Q90T. Because of course, how do you like that? How do you like that? That's Samsung literally slapping you in the face. I'm disgusted. I didn't think that the difference would be that much. Look how much it normally is. For a TV that has less dimming zones, but does the exact same thing pretty much as... Oh, and it also has that weird film as well. That angle film that the Q90R has. So again, you're losing contrast. Losing contrast, losing dimmable zones, losing features... And yet, no one is talking about this. Like, it's unbelievable. Just for fun, let's see if we can find the Q90R. Q90R. Okay. Oops. No. Hold on. Okay, so yeah, like I said, the Q90R is discontinued, so I can't find it in searches. I'm gonna try anyway. They're sold out across the board, and Samsung, no one is stocking them anymore, and Samsung wants to pretend pretty much that it never happened. Again, look at this. Is that not a slap to the face? Is that not a slap to the face? Seriously. Seriously. This is about the same price as the Q90T. And the Q9fn is even cheaper than this. And here's another thing that I don't like. This nonsense. Direct full array 16 times. Okay. And the Q9fn has direct full array elite. It's just a change in the terminology. It's the same thing. Okay, this is new. This is actually maybe something, if you really care about AI in your TV, you may like. But yeah, 100% color volume? Well, nope. Expanded HDR? Okay, yes. Adaptation? Do you really care about that? Do you need your screen to auto-adjust all the time on you when you're watching TV? Oh, it's too bright. Oh, it's too dark. Better change that. No, you don't need that. Ultra viewing angle. Yeah, that's that film layer which completely takes away your contrast. All in one. And look, there's that crappy plastic black remote I talked about. This piece of junk here. In comparison to the steel remote, what's nicer? I bet you like the steel one better, because I know I did. And yeah, just the features on this TV. Look, FreeSync. Ooh, what a new thing. Wait, the Q9fn has that too. So, don't my advice to you guys is don't buy into this marketing nonsense. Like, if you really want to save yourself some money, but get a decent 4K set, and, with most of the newest features, get one of these. Get a Q8fn or a Q9fn, if you can still get them. And, where I am, you still can. Maybe where you are, you can't. Or maybe you could pick one up used from someone. You won't lose with the 2018 series. There won't be anything you'd be thinking of, oh, I wish I had this. Again, the only reason I even upgraded to an OLED, which, won't be here for like another week, is because of just detail, and I'm a sucker for detail. Now, not to say this TV's not detailed, but OLED, it brings out more detail while getting rid of other color and other things, but still. So, in my opinion, you shouldn't get any of the 2020 Samsung models. I mean, if you can still find one, you could maybe get a 2019, but just be ready for some compromises in doing so. If you really want, in my opinion, the best that Samsung has ever offered, in my opinion, you should go for the 2018 Qleds. And really, not just Samsung, but just watch the TV marketers. Let's actually approach another one right now, LG. LG currently is doing the same thing that Samsung is. They're taking features away. Let's take a look at the latest 2019 LG to the 2020 LG. The LG 2019 had 12 bits of video processing, so true, in my opinion, Dolby Vision. It had 48 gigabits per second, HDMI 2.1. All of the HDMI 2.1, all the ports are HDMI 2.1. It had your 4K resolution. It had DTS support for audio. And it had most of the features that the 2020 has, with minor variances. I think the 2021, one of the big differences is the black frame insertion mode, which can go up to 120 hertz. But who cares? Literally, who cares about that? So now, when we talk about it, the 2020 models, they only have 40 gigabits per second. Now, that might not be a big deal to a lot of people, but hey, it's worth mentioning because it's something they took away. DTS support, where did that go? Well, it's not there now, so you better have Dolby Digital or, Dolby Atmos, because there is no DTS. Zero support. It's gone. It's no longer there. And, yeah. So, again, I strongly urge you as consumers to really look back, not forward, but into the past. Because, again, 2018 seems to be a really good year for TVs. Now, I don't know about OLEDs. It might be a different story. But I know for a fact that 2019 OLEDs were pretty much the pinnacle of what LG has done. And I think they will continue to be the pinnacle of what LG has done for the next 4 years or so. But it's hard to say for sure. But anyway, that's my thoughts for now. And I think that, as consumers, we all need to be more aware of what it is we're buying and really, really thoroughly do research these days, because otherwise these companies will pull the rug out right from under us. I hope that all of you enjoyed this video, and I also hope that this will help your buying decision if you're thinking of upgrading a TV. And I also hope that this spreads word really well, because again, this is ridiculous. Like, we need to be talking about this more, this kind of thing, because what we want is obviously not what our companies want to sell. They want to give us less but charge us the same. Anyways, guys, take care and enjoy the rest of your day. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I could always use some more subscribers on this channel. Bye for now.